Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Presley Stutz. I have the right to remain silent, but I do not have the ability. And my partner in crime is Sam Manley over here. Sam is the man, and we are here today with our Patriots On Point podcast, and we've got the great good fortune to interview our good friend, Sheriff Hobart Lewis. Sheriff,
good to see you.
Well, welcome to the podcast.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Glad you could be here. Yes, sir.
Sheriff, you've been in office now since January?
March 16th. March. Yes, sir.
You had a real tough special election that we slogged through, but something that people may not know is that it was a landslide victory. I did a little research, Sheriff. 72 to 28% was your margin of victory. There's nobody in South Carolina that's had that kind of margin of victory in a sheriff's race ever.
I was very fortunate.
Very fortunate.
I was blessed.
Well, a lot of the people here call you the People's Sheriff. And
I appreciate that.
And
Hope
they appreciate you. They appreciate your humility. They appreciate your professionalism. And they know that you're doing a good job watching out for Greenville County. So we just wanted to have you here. We had your opponent on for the coming up election here last week, and so we wanted to get you in and spend a few minutes just chatting with you and talking with you. And I know, Sam, you used to work at the sheriff's office, and so why don't you go open up with a couple questions for the sheriff, and we'll see where the conversation goes.
Hey, my pleasure. Hey, I'm glad you're here with us on for the podcast or whatever. Long time since we were at the sheriff's office together, working the road, competing for DUIs. It's a few years that's gone by. But
not only that, we competed in a sheriff's race.
We did 2016.
Yeah,
Why you got to remind me of that?
Well, mutual suffering does a lot. So we were in it together.
And, we were in it together. That was an interesting race. Hey, I point back to that era. That was the changing of the guard in that race.
Sure.
We set things in motion. Whether we neither one of us were prevailed in that race, but things were set in motion with the candidates in that race, and I think when you won your special election earlier this year, it was job complete type thing. I know you got a vote coming up, but
well, you don't realize how the Lord works things out. I lost by 288 votes, and so you're in third place, which really gets you nothing at the time, and you think that your chances of ever doing that again are over. And the fact is, the winner of that race in 2016 had this job probably as long as he wanted it. He's young and had some great ideas, had some great people around him, and could have done really well. But God's always working, and when you ask for something, our timing is not His timing.
That's right.
So I was really surprised to have a chance to run in a special election, which only lasted 90 days. We ran last time for about 8 months, and man, it was tough.
I announced 2 years before the election.
Right, that's right. Some of us ran for 7 or 8 months, but some of us did run for 24.
Yeah.
But God opened the door, and again, I got to run in a 90-day election, which was it took a lot out of me. Certainly physically, it's pretty draining, but it didn't take quite as much money, believe it or not, as our race before. And again, the Lord just orchestrated everything for me, and to have such a resounding win, to be honest, I didn't see that coming. So I'm the 72-28. I didn't. I don't think anybody else saw it either. But again, you turn something over to the Lord and let Him work it out, and stay out of your own way, and it works out.
So sometimes it's hard to stay out of your own way.
It is. Yeah, absolutely. The human side takes over, and we step in our own way sometimes, and it's tough. But then you be careful what you ask for. You just might get it. So my first...
I'm sure it's different from being a candidate and actually being the sheriff.
Really is.
You talk about what you're going to do and how you're going to do things, and then when you're sitting behind the desk, you're like, this ain't going to go the way I want it to go, but we got to take it a little slower.
There's just some things you can't do, honestly, and you have to keep people, their families in mind and those things, and everybody thinks you're going to come in and fire 50 people. But you, at the end of the day, for me personally, I don't know about anybody else that's ever been the sheriff. I've never asked this question, but you certainly have to do the right thing. And doing the right thing is not always easy, for sure. I mean, it's you got to pray about things and let it work out. And So I've tried to kind of slow roll some of that and watch people work and really get a feel instead of the rumors, because everybody starts calling you saying, oh, you need to do this, you need to do that.
Everybody's got a lot of advice.
Everybody's got a lot
They're
of
all
plans.
angling for their own.
That's
own
right.
agenda.
Anytime you dismiss somebody, it opens a spot for somebody else, and then it goes on down the line. You know,
Yeah,
how
and
it
not
is.
even just dismiss them, but when they resign or retire,
Move them, yeah,
or whatever, or
It-
move whatever.
It opens a spot. So you gotta try to determine people's motives for that, and you know, at the end of the day, if you do the right thing for the right reasons, everything works out. And the governor called me. I actually was supposed to take office on the 18th, and I'm sorry, the 19th, on that Thursday, and I had already won. The votes had been certified, and I called Sunday night to make sure I could take office early because of COVID. So
Right.
I took office March the 16th, and the governor called me and he said, I just want to congratulate you. He said, but by the way, I'm shutting the whole state down tomorrow. So my first day in office, the entire state was shut down because of COVID. So
Right.
Wow.
and it's something nobody had dealt with, none of us. You know, everybody's on the phone talking to each other, trying to figure out what COVID is and what do we do, and social distancing, that term wasn't out yet, and
Right.
no mask or any of that. So it's been it's been a tough 7 months, to be honest. It's nothing
Well, it's
easy
been a
about
tough year.
it. Yeah, sure.
You remember the old saying, when you were doing something wrong, your mama said, you better stop that, Sam, I'm gonna
Yeah.
slap you
Yeah.
the next year?
Yeah.
I wish
kinda
you'd
wish
do it.
you would
Yeah,
do
that's
it,
right.
right?
Take me to
Yeah.
2021 right now. That's
So,
right.
Hobart, along those lines, talk to us a little bit about some of the surprises you found being sheriff as a new sheriff to the people, and what you've learned with that, and then we'll talk about a few other things in a minute.
Well, again, COVID was a complete surprise to
Right,
everybody, and
right.
then you know, that's in March, and you finally begin to at least adjust to the fact that we're going to have to start testing people for the first time in sheriff's office history, statewide. Because I talked to all the sheriffs, and when this is the first time any of us had done this, but we actually had to come up with a platoon of people to put in reserve and send them home and say, okay, all we want you to do is try to stay healthy. Before the term quarantine came out, just try to quarantine yourself and stay healthy in case somebody gets sick. At this time, we're going to have to send everybody on this platoon home that has 24, 26 people. And so we had to have something in reserve to put out there and put into the community to answer the calls. So we got past that, and then you have the George Floyd incident in the end of May,
Right.
going into June, and now we're having protests nationwide. It's happening here as fast as it's happening anywhere in the nation. So you don't get a chance for a do-over, you
Right.
know, and it really, honestly, it helped me and Greenville City's chief, Howie Thompson, build a great relationship. And that relationship's forged in iron. I mean, it'll never waver,
Right.
because mutual suffering, what we went through together, and the things we had to deal with. So I've had a lot of firsts for us as a state, as a county, not just first for me personally,
Right.
and where you don't even have a chance really to start making relationships and doing some of those things that you think you would do, because there's something just more important.
Well, Sheriff, I can remember it was a Friday evening, or Saturday evening, I forget which evening it was. I was out of town, I was on my way home, and I was coming up 85. And all of a sudden, the highway patrolman, his blue lights were in my rearview mirror. And I thought, oh, am I speeding? And I looked down, and I was doing 68 and 65, so
Sure.
I thought I was safe. And 2 minutes later, another highway patrolman. And I got off on Woodruff Road to head home. And about the time I got over there by Sam's Club and Krispy Kreme and Kohl's over there, there must have been 70 or 80 sheriff
At
cars.
least, yeah.
Yeah.
It was a
And
Saturday night.
It was a Saturday night.
Yeah.
And I found out after the fact that some of the protesters had come out onto Woodruff Road, and they were
That's right.
planning to loot.
That's right.
And I thought, that's my sheriff, because you all responded, and the entire office, and there were other departments and agencies involved
Sure.
as well.
Absolutely.
But you sent a very clear message from the beginning. We're not going to tolerate and put up with any of that looting and killing and arson that has happened in other cities, you know, around the country. So I just want to, you know, salute you, Hobart, for that, because I think your response was very appropriate for the time.
I appreciate it, but we really got good people, and and the men and women at the sheriff's office in Greenville City and the Highway Patrol and SLED, Malden City. Actually, when you were talking about the Woodruff Road incident, everybody offered some kind of assistance.
Right.
But everybody, in that particular case, everybody had left downtown and moved toward Target on Woodruff Road, and we had some uniformed patrol people that were already in that area, so they saw this just huge caravan of cars go to Target, and Target immediately panicked and closed. So they pull down the metal barriers and do all that stuff. Well, they leave there and go across the interstate to Kohl's, where there's a lot of windows and a lot of opportunities. And by the time I got there, I had left downtown, and we all, like the troopers you saw, we were all heading the opposite direction going toward Kohl's. We probably had 250, maybe 300 cars and people there because there was a car show, and these people injected themselves into that parking lot and started picking up rocks, and they were, going to bust a window at Kohl's or something. So we had some K9 units out there, and we were just, I promise you, the Lord blessed us. We just had everybody in the right spot.
It was swift action.
We had to getting them back out on Woodruff Road and get them on the interstate to get out of there was probably the most difficult part, because we couldn't get them out of the parking lot. Everybody was stopped and didn't know which way to go, and a lot of panic set in. But in the end, it all worked out. So.
Well, the protesters really didn't plan it very, because that's not a rock-friendly place over there.
No, it's very little glass.
Yeah,
there's some curbs that were broke up, but that was about the only rocks you had. Yeah, so for that Ernest T. Bass moment, there was nobody with a bag of rocks.
Yeah. But it just showed me some swift, decisive leadership, and I think that's what the people of Greenville County appreciate.
Well, you got to be ready to make a decision. That's for
that
sure.
is, and that I was getting ready to do that when y'all were talking about that. Howie Thompson is a class act over at the Greenville City.
Absolutely.
The job should be his. I don't know if they've made a decision over there, but he most definitely deserves that spot. Not in a time. I've been involved in law enforcement since 99 when I got into law enforcement. And I was there 15 years, but not at a time that I can think of that we have a sheriff and a chief who work together the way you guys do, and have respect for each other. It was like, we had Chad McBride over in Anderson, we got Chuck Wright over in Spartanburg, and Greenville was the missing link.
Right.
You filled that link.
Well,
and that's my opinion. And you filled that link. It's been missing for a while, and really connected the upstate of having good law enforcement. And so. My hat's off to you for what you guys have done over there. I mean, like you said, you came into a situation back in March where, hey,
it was eventful.
You swore in, and hey, we got the whole world is turned upside down. So you're like, what did I win?
Well,
he didn't even get to take his shoes off to sleep at night. He had to sleep with his shoes on.
That's right. I didn't. And a lot of things you don't think about, but when you lay it out there when you're running to be a constitutional sheriff. And, the first thing you're faced with is really a constitutional issue. The governor, putting out executive orders and mandatory masks and mandatory quarantines and those things, and you start having to do some research to say, wait a minute, this has never happened before, but can he do this, and how far can it go, and how long can it last? And because people are looking to me to, hey, you got to make a decision here. Are you going to enforce these things in restaurants? Are you going to what are you going to do about social distancing and nail salons that were open that he said should be closed? It was tough. I mean, it was a tough, really 4 or 5 weeks getting into actually June and the times that protests were occurring. It's some tough decision making.
Yeah, and you made some good decisions because, as the sheriff of Greenville County, now Sam and I are Republicans, you're a Republican.
Sure, absolutely.
But
better yet, we're conservatives.
Well, better yet,
Constitutional conservatives.
Constitutional conservatives.
Because there's some Republicans that are not Republicans.
Well, you're exactly right, Sam. Yeah, there you go. Rhinos, right?
Yeah, rhinos. Yeah, you do.
But you're the sheriff for everybody here.
Right. That's right.
Black, white, red, yellow, brown, Republican, Democrat,
independent,
whatever. And I think the people, you've earned the respect in just a few months that you've been in office of the people. Obviously, everybody, I don't care who you are in a position of leadership, you're always going to have your rock throwers, standing off the side.
Yeah. And that's hard to get used to because you want everybody to be happy.
We all want to be loved, don't we?
The reality is once the election's over, and it was a learning process for me too, is you really have to put all that aside and say, okay, today's the first day of work, the election's over, and forget about whatever happened, whoever you ran against, whatever they said, and whoever at a 620 person agency, they picked sides too. They supported other candidates and they did those things. So it wasn't a time for retribution or any of that. It's you really have to put that stuff on the back burner and let everybody know it's a new day. Let's move forward, and then you're running again in November. So
you've only run 5 times this year already, haven't you?
5 times. I think
myself
and Lynn Ballard, I think, hold that record for running 5 times in 1 year.
I tell you
Wow,
what.
how about that?
Well, hopefully next month it'll be the last thing.
I hope it's the last time for
4 years.
For 4 years.
Huh?
There you
Hopefully. Will. Last night you spoke at the American Reformation rally last night, and you talked about the Constitution
Sure.
and those things. Just elaborate on, you said constitutional sheriff. I ran as a constitutional sheriff in 2016.
Right.
You ran as a constitutional sheriff in 2016. Some sheriffs don't see things the way we see it. So elaborate for the folks that are watching this, your opinion on the Constitution and what your duties are as far as that goes.
Well, I think a lot of people, especially in politics, use that for kind of a buzz term when it's convenient for them, and they say they're a constitutional whatever, a senator or council person. But the basis for what people don't understand for a sheriff is, and until you get in there, you get a lot of phone calls, and it's up to you to say yes or no, or this is what we're going to do. And if you're not a constitutional sheriff, you really have the ability to take people's rights away fast and in a hurry. So not just Second Amendment issues. We all know the Second Amendment's big, and if you believe in your right to carry a firearm and to arm yourself, and to own a firearm even, that the Constitution gives you that, and that's we focus on that a lot. Look at the protests that happened. Everybody got to experience firsthand what the First Amendment's all about. Now there's laws, everybody says peacefully protest, and we all define that a little bit different, depending on what's going on. But you got a right to protest. You got a right to have your voice heard. So I'm as obligated to defend those who are expressing their First Amendment just as much as I am defending anybody for their Second Amendment. So the Constitution is what it is. I don't believe it's a changeable document. I think if we're not careful on who we elect, they're going to chip away at it. And I do believe my daddy always told me, if you give somebody an inch, they'll take a mile. And if you look at what's happened just on the Supreme Court nomination in the past couple of days, it's just incredible to hear people cast stones at somebody who has such an impeccable record, such a stand-up, nothing to do with politics at all, just a very good lady. She's the mother of 7 children. She's adopted some. I mean, she's a judge that has been sought after and published and all the accolades you could want. What better candidate could you want? And they're saying some of the harshest, meanest things about her, which they have a right to do. But unfortunately, the Constitution does allow you the right to be a little bit ugly. It don't allow you the right to break the law. So a lot of people look to their sheriffs, and if you look, we live in a special part of South Carolina. It's South Carolina is not completely focused on protecting the Constitution. There's some parts of it that are being chipped away around the state. Certainly states around us. I mean, if you look at North Carolina and Tennessee and Georgia, we're not going to let that happen here. And I think the key to that is to put people in place who are going to defend it. So we're very fortunate to have the Bobby Coxes, and hopefully the Hobart Lewises. I hope people see that we're going to protect their rights, and those are God-given rights. And this country was founded on religious freedoms. The Constitution was written and ratified and looked at, and it was to the best interest of some of the simplest times, but the hardest times. And it still holds true today, just as much as the Bible does. And we're going to stand for it.
Well, and I agree with you. I mean, you made some good points. Amy Barrett is a class act.
Absolutely.
I mean, they've gone after her, and she's eat their lunch every day. I'm talking about,
in a very classy way.
In a very classy way.
She defines who she is.
Defines who she is. And the Kavanaugh did the same thing. They really went after Kavanaugh and really drug him through the ringer when he got confirmed. But you're right. South Carolina, we have the reputation of being red when we're actually purple.
Right.
Because we have a lot of lobbyists.
Right.
We don't have a lot of conservative, and I know this, Presley, you know this, we've spent a lot of time dealing with politics down in Columbia, and you know this too, Sheriff. There's a lot of lobbyists down there that are forcing their will, and you know the people, the majority of South Carolinians that are going to work every day, they don't have time to keep track of what the backdoor deals that are going on down in Columbia. We've got some good ones down there.
Right.
Stuart Jones, Bobby Cox.
Sure.
Yeah.
But a lot of people in the working world that really make the wheels go round for us here in the upstate that produce great products and work so hard every day at different plants and in grocery stores and you know everywhere, all our mechanical services and all those people, they're too busy working to really get into the politics and realize that they're really are kind of being led by the nose if you're not careful, if you just listen to somebody. And I learned one thing that was extremely important to me in the Army, and that is always to, you know, trust people, but verify.
Right.
You know, nothing wrong with trusting what you say, but you better verify it.
Reagan told Gorbachev, "Dobryai i probryai." That's Russian for trust but verify.
Is it really? Yeah.
Dobryai i probryai.
Yes.
And Hobart, you're right. And for those of you who are watching us on this podcast here, I want to remind you the words of Plato. He said, "Your failure to get involved in the political process, your punishment will be that you will be governed by your inferiors."
That's right.
And unfortunately, in this state of South Carolina, we have a lot of inferior people in our state house and in the bureaucracy. But we count our blessings every day. I can lay my head on my pillow at night knowing that we've got a sheriff here who's willing to put his life on the land. He's drawn the line in the sand. And he said, no, the Constitution rests upon my shoulders. I'm going to protect the people of this county when it comes to their free speech, when it comes to their right to keep and to bear arms, when it comes to the right to be free of an unreasonable search.
That's right.
And other issues. And so I just want to encourage each and every one of you. And we've got an election coming up here, 20 days from today. 20 days.
It's got to be I don't know if it's 21 or 22.
Well, yesterday it was Tuesday, so it's 3 weeks away, 21. So it's 20 days.
Yeah, that's right.
20 days from today.
There you go.
And, we've got a lot of other very significant elections on that ballot. But I can't think of one that fits any closer to home for you, those of you here in Greenville County, than to go vote for this man, Hobart Lewis.
Well, thank you. And I will tell you, if you don't know now the significance of your local sheriff, how important that position is, and to know really who you are voting for, it's critical. It can change the way your family lives for a long time.
You can go out to California and they're dragging people out of churches. In Australia, they're just no knock. You know, a woman in Australia, believe it or not, she says, we're going to have a rally against this government that's putting all this tyranny on us. They did a no-knock, went in and grabbed her, snatched her out of her home while she's cooking dinner with her children watching. You know, it's insane.
Right.
And we take all these freedoms and the blessings of liberty for granted, but we really can't take those freedoms for granted anymore, especially in the climate that we're living in.
And you know, it applies to us in law enforcement.
Yeah.
You know, probably my fourth month in office, I think, fourth or fifth, I had a local activist who called me and said, hey, civilian reached out to me and said that they were wrongfully arrested. And, my immediate reaction is, well, they're crazy. You know, who says that? So, so they called me back and they set up a meeting with this guy who comes in and files a complaint. And we get the dates and times. We pull the body camera footage and in-car footage, and he was unlawfully detained. I mean, there's nothing good about it at all. So that person who did nothing wrong, he was just a bystander, to be honest. His Fourth Amendment is just as important as our right to go out and police, you know, and serve the citizens. We're held to that higher standard, and we're required to know the law. We're required to know the Constitution. So I want to make sure that we get a pocket copy of the Constitution and give to all 460 officers that work at the sheriff's office and make sure they know how important it is.
We'll get one printed out with the sheriff's
I hope they'll
badge
carry
on
it with
that.
them. Yeah, I mean, it's important.
Yeah.
You're an extension of the highest constitutional office in the county, no matter who the sheriff is.
Well, and Hobart, what you just said to the people is, and this is what I really appreciate about you with your transparency. You had a deputy who just wasn't properly trained. He didn't know what he was doing. and you were willing to say, okay, we were wrong here,
Right.
but you corrected it.
Right. Absolutely.
And that's so important because, most politicians, they just like to sweep it under the rug.
It'll come back.
Or justify
It's
it.
not, yeah,
Yeah.
it will come back.
They'll find other means to justify it and sweet,
Right.
and you're right.
We can be truthful and give it to the citizens, give it to the public the way it is, and give them time to digest it. And we're going to have to answer those tough questions,
Right.
especially with the racial climate we have right now in this country.
Yeah.
We've had some very difficult conversations with our people who work for us, as well as people out in the community. Nothing easy about it at all, but I think we all grow from it,
Right.
and certainly learn a lot from it. And again, don't think I don't pray awfully hard about these things, and the Lord's always in it. I mean, He always guides me in the right direction.
Well, and again, speaking of praying, we were at this event last night with you, Sheriff. And y'all, I don't think ever in my life have I had a sheriff. You brought up 3 young men.
Yeah,
And,
those kids that were out there.
And you talked about them in the future, but you share your faith. You don't push it upon people, but people know that you're unapologetic a Christian. You follow the principles
Absolutely.
and teachings of Jesus Christ, who's
Yes,
your Lord
sir.
and Savior. And again, we may have people watching this, who are of different faiths, but I can tell you that if you're a different faith other than a Christian, the sheriff's going to respect you in your faith. But at the same time, he's willing, to be brave enough, to speak the message of truth. And so I really appreciate that from you too.
Well, thank you. But listen, I'm only here because the Lord put me here. It's nothing because I had
I
the
know.
magic secret. So we're all responsible. We're only here for a short time.
Right.
And we're all responsible to do what the Lord wants us to do. And I believe He put us here for that companionship and to help each other. And it's my responsibility, especially on the platform I have now. If I don't use it to try to win souls for what the Lord wants us to do, and to spend eternity, man, I'm wasting a lot of time. So.
There you go. There you go.
I agree.
Well, Sam, do you have any other last minute questions of the
I-
sheriff before we wrap this up?
Glad you're our sheriff.
Yeah.
I appreciate it very much.
Didn't mind. I went out and put yard signs in yards, and
appreciate it.
and among a million other people, 100
Yeah.
people, 100 others people that did the same thing because we knew what we had coming and what we needed to get going, and so that was probably one of the best votes that we've been friends a long time. And me and Hobart have known each other since 7th grade. Lakeview Middle
sixth
School,
grade, probably.
6th
Yeah,
grade, Lakeview
yeah,
Middle School.
for sure.
So we've known each other a while. So I knew what we were getting when I came out for Hobart earlier on this year. But thank you for being here.
Thank y'all.
Hobart.
I think it's great what y'all are doing.
Want to
Yeah,
close
thank you.
with one thing. As everybody can see, we're all wearing pink.
Yes.
Right, yeah.
Sheriff's got a pink tie on. I got my pink shirt. Presley's got his pink shirt. October's Breast Cancer Awareness Month.
Yes.
Especially hard for me, I guess, or it means a
mom,
lot
yeah.
because my mom battled breast cancer twice, overcame it, and then got bone cancer a little later on in her life, and passed away due to the complications of that. Today's actually her birthday. She would have been 70 years old today.
Oh, wow.
So all month long on Facebook or so, I've been, Real Men Wear Pink. I saw your
Right,
where you were on that.
We're raising money for
Right.
real men wear pink for the American Cancer Society, and there's a lot of people on it raising money, but the majority of that money does go for research and treatment. It's a great cause, so
Yeah.
very proud to do it.
So to all of the ladies out there, our mothers, our grandmothers, our wives, our daughters, know that we love you and know that we're supporting you if any of you are struggling with breast cancer this time of year. So with that having been said, Sheriff, thank you so much for taking
Thank
time
you.
out of your busy schedule.
Yes, sir.
And
Thank
God
you.
bless you.
God bless
Okay.
you. Thank you so
Appreciate
much
it.
for
No
having me.
problem. No
Appreciate y'all.